This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube, and today I have one of my favorite guests. I've wrestled him, I've watched him growing up. I was a fan of his. He was with the Mega Maniacs, Brutus the Butcher Beefcake, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, the Zodiac. He's had so many gimmicks, and almost all of them were over huge. WWE and WCW legend, WWE Hall of Famer, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing excellent, man. Good to talk to you again.
Good to see you. You got a new couch, I think, maybe since the last time I talked to you, or maybe you're in a different section of your house.
Different room, but yeah, this probably is a new couch. We tend to go through them pretty quick. I don't know why, but
You got a lot of pets, don't you?
we got two little chihuahuas, and they're not hard on the furniture, really. They're just hard on the rugs.
So I was noticing before we went on, you still got your full head of hair. That's pretty damn impressive.
Well, it's not real full, but I mean, hey, at least it's there. I got something, I'm not Bozo the clown O-ring.
Yeah.
Head.
Did anyone ever approach you? Because I think it would have done well at one point about actually training you to be a pro barber and opening up a Brutus the Barber Beefcake barber shop.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, nobody really that was serious, but yeah, that would be a tough one. I mean, maybe it was something I could just drop in on and still, still go around doing my thing, signing and stuff. That could probably work, but that's a tough one.
Yeah. How have your workouts been lately? You look still pretty big.
I work out when I can. I don't go crazy over it anymore. I mean, I got 50 years in the gym. Lucky for me that the muscle memory holds itself, and try to drop a few more pounds and get down a little bit more. And the funny thing is, when I lose weight, I look bigger. So that's
that's true.
That's when fans are always reacting. The guys told me last weekend, hey man, are you getting ready to go back in the ring? You look good. I said, hey, no man, I ain't going back in the ring. I had enough of that. I just want to try to be healthy so I can. I just went to the UK in March and came back and to make the trips and not be too uncomfortable from sores, backs and stuff.
How's Greg Valentine doing these days?
Brother, that is the $1 million question, I guess. He's not allowed to take my calls. His wife won't allow him to take my calls. And if he doesn't call me while he's out on the road, I don't know. I mean, we've run into each other a few times here and there. He's been very cordial. Everything's cool. But we just don't talk on the phone anymore.
Yeah, it was weird because about a month ago, I was in Vegas and I talked to him. We couldn't do an interview then. He's like, and I was back there last week. And he said, call me the next time you're in there. And we had a good 15-minute talk. It seemed like everything was cool. But then he didn't answer me at all when I came back. So I didn't know if anything was wrong with him health-wise or something. Because it's not like him to not even answer his phone, but who knows?
Well, I don't know. As far as I know, I mean, going back years and years and years, I used to have to leave him messages, call him every name in the book to make him mad enough. So then finally he would return a phone call. I mean, it's easier just to go to his house and find him if I needed to talk to him or something. Mostly I would be trying to call him to, let him know about a booking or to try to make him some money, But if you don't want to take the call, then I'm only gonna break so much, I ain't get. If he doesn't want to go somewhere, I'm not gonna force it on him.
Well, let's talk about Greg a bit. The good part too, since we brought him up here. When was the first time you actually met him in your career, and were you friends right away?
Met him back in, it was late 70s, I'm pretty sure, in New York. We got along. I used to go watch his father, Johnny Valentine, was a regular here at Florida Championship Wrestling, and I used to go to the old matches, and Jose Lothario and Malenko and Bugsy McGraw and Dusty, and I mean on and on and on. Rocky Johnson and Superstar Billy Graham. And we had an amazing Wahoo McDaniels amount of guys here. And so I used to go to the TV and a little teeny studio and watching. The only guy that really I was really scared of, like as a kid, was Johnny Valentine, because man, he was chiseled. He wasn't a weightlifter, big man, and just looked like he was mad dog mean. And from what Greg tells me, he kind of was, but he had a good sense of humor, like to rib and stuff, you know. And you know, I met Greg, and you know, Greg was had started. He's got a few years on me and had already been in the business, and I was more of a newer comer in the late 70s there in New York. And then I went to North Carolina, and he was living in North Carolina, had a nice house in there and everything. And I was running around with the Briscoes and the Funks, and everybody was in North Carolina then. And it was a lot of fun. And, you know, I got on great with Greg, you know, no problem. And then we both wound up back in the WWF in late 93, 94. And I guess he was, I don't know if he had left. I think he might have always been there when I was, he left for a while to go to the Carolinas and then came back. And we, you know, we're friends and stuff. And then next thing you know, they're putting us together in the ring, just to like throwing poop against the wall and see what sticks. And most everybody thought, you know, those Beefcake and his, and then Greg and blah, 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 that won't work. And really, they were completely wrong, because our styles being so different, sometimes that makes it even better. It made us gel. And Greg had his nice robes, you know, I had my flashy stuff, but Greg had the beautiful robes that Wrestling 2's wives were making for guys, for Flair, for everybody back then. And, you know, so we, you know, Greg in his robe and me and my stuff, and the bow ties, and we were flash all the way. And then our styles were so different. Greg was slower, more methodical, doing me, you know, up and down, doing, I mean, not really doing flying, but, you know, moving fast, doing stuff that you really didn't see Greg doing. So our styles melded together and made for real good matches. We had great matches. And I always look at it like Greg didn't sell a whole lot. I mean, he would register and stuff, but he had his way. And so I figured, you know what? Geez, I'm going to take his lead. Excuse me for a second. I'm trying to take his lead and be that way. So, I mean, you know, we wrestled the Bulldogs. I mean, geez, those two were wide open. Dynamite Kid, 10,000 miles an hour, man. He'd hit you like a freight train and stuff. And Davey Boy was husky and, you know, lifting weights a lot back, and then he was bulked up pretty good. And then once we got him slowed down, and we showed him how to actually have a match that meant something, to tell a little story out there and work holds and not just do crazy one spot after another, spot. And then the matches were easy. You know, we had the Rougeos, there was a lot of guys, and the Killer Bees and everything. And it was like, when it came to those guys, Greg didn't really like to sell a lot. So I was like, hey, he ain't going to sell. I'm not going to be the guy flopping all over the ring for everybody. I'm going to sell just as much as he does. And I have to tell you, he didn't sell much. So after a while, everybody's a little mad at us, you know, because we had a rough and tumble, bad guys that were just tough. And then eventually that era came in where it became cool to like the bad guys. And they loved me and Greg. And you know, we're all flash. We're in the ring. We're solid. You can't see through our wrestling, our punches, our kicks. Everything is just so solid that, you know, it was unquestionable. And it got over big time. The people loved it. You could believe in our matches. And then, I mean, you know, and they were entertaining. And that's the whole name of the game. You want to be entertaining. That's what we're out there to do.
Greg told me too, like you mentioned, he didn't like to sell that much. He also didn't like to do jobs. Obviously, he would still do jobs, but if he didn't want to do a job, what would he tell them? Would he just try and come up with a different finish, or would he just flat out say he's not doing it? Would he try and get you to take the pin?
Yeah, he didn't have to really. Neither one of us really had to do jobs. A couple of times now, actually, he took, you know, he took the loss, and they pinned him in WrestleMania 2. And while the referee's holding my leg, I couldn't get in to help Nick save. But and then a few occasions, like maybe Anaheim, California, against the Sheik and Volkov, or in Maple Leaf Garden one time, I think, against the Bulldogs. We had a match, and Greg wound up. They got the pin on Greg, so we were coming back again in another match, and I think we came back like in a cage match and stuff. And so I mean, we weren't asked to do a lot of jobs. He wasn't asked to do a lot of jobs, but I remember he did. He got pinned a few times, and I got pinned a couple times maybe. Wasn't a lot. I mean, we never lost matches hardly. I mean, we worked DQs or countouts or this or that, you know, but we weren't getting counted out 1, 2, 3 very much at all.
A lot of people say that you had the best match of WrestleMania 2. Do you think now that they're putting matches into the WWE Hall of Fame, starting with Austin and Bret Hart this year, that your WrestleMania 2 match against the Bulldogs could go in there in the future?
Oh, easily. Have you watched that match lately? I mean,
not since I was a kid, actually. I should go back and watch it again.
You should watch it, because Davey Boy and I did a move that I never rehearsed with him, but he trusted me. We were always did this thing where I'd have him like in a semi kind of sleeper thing or a headlock or something, and he would do this flip all the way over and come down behind me and then work into spots. I mean, he did the press slams with me. I'd be extending up pushing off his shoulder, and I mean, just as high as he could get me in the air and everything. And so what we did was, it's like I'd have an arm bar on him from behind. That's what it was. And then he would do the flip over the back. So we went to do that, and we went down, and normally where he'd flip over the top, I held them out at head level with his arm still behind his back, and I brought him down perfectly flat. And I'm telling you, it looks like I killed him. Like it should have just broke his arm. That's it. Done. It was amazing. And we never practiced it. We never even talked about doing it. I just started up before the match, asked him if he would do it. He said, sure. And I took care of him. Boom. And then we kept going. I mean, it was a great match. It was a tremendous match. We just, those guys were fantastic, and we had fun. It was, I hate to say it, I love the guys, but they weren't prepared to get the belts yet. They just, it wasn't really the time for me to get belts. They floundered. They only had Captain Lou to try to talk for them and stuff. They just didn't have it down enough to really have the belts. And it would have been better, because that's the way it works. You leave the belts on the heels. The baby faces are chasing them all around. The people come because what? They want to see them beat the bad guys and win the belts, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's one of the main appeals. So if the baby faces have the belts, what's the incentive?
Yeah.
To come watch the match? They've already got the belts. So if they'd have left the belts on us, we could have kept going for another year. There was plenty of stuff, plenty of towns, plenty of cities and states. And, and they could have chased us, and they could beat us almost every night, but not get the belts and just go and go and go. But they took the belts off us. And then, then WrestleMania 3, they split me and Greg up. It was a George Scott thing. George Scott was the booker there, I think. And he was one of Greg knew him well, was his buddy, like from the Carolinas and everything. I didn't know the guy at all. But there was always something. We always seemed to be somehow in the shit house and, in the outhouse with this guy. And so then, they broke us up, which was, I was having a great time doing the heel thing, tag with Greg. I enjoyed the heck out of it. And I learned a lot from Greg, and he taught me the road, like being in New York and Jersey and stuff. Cause learning how to get your way around New York City and Long Island and Jersey and all that it's a horror story. And Greg was good at it, and he knew all the places, all the shortcuts, and he showed me how to get around, and it worked out good. Because once I went on my own as a babyface, then I needed that, because I'm not really traveling with anybody, and I'm on my own to get everywhere. And so it prepared me to be on my own and to flourish.
And you certainly did. Could you tell us a bit more about the travel, which was absolutely horrible back then? But wrestling was so popular, they needed you guys in 3 towns a night because you were drawing, you were selling out.
We were selling out every night. Yeah, people don't understand how many people say, "How much did you work?" Blah, blah, blah. We worked 355 days, and on those 355 days, on like every couple of weeks, we did television on Monday and Tuesday. And if you're a feature, and we both were, you wrestled 4 TVs on Monday and 4 TVs on Tuesday. Sometimes matches are fairly short. Doesn't matter. When you lace up your boots and you get in that ring, it's just as dangerous being in there 1 minute as being in there 25, 30 minutes, whatever. And it's stressful on your body. And then we were wrestling matinees on the weekends. So on Saturday, wrestle in the afternoon, and then sometimes hauling butt in the cars, or sometimes going straight to an airport, hopping on a charter jet and flying 500, 1,000 miles to another big city, and then rushing to the building, and then running another big show. The shows there were so many people that were making so much money, the merchandise and everything. Sometimes you wrestled as many as 20 matches in 1 week. I know that sounds impossible, but it was true. And after the year, I went through my book and went and looked and did an interview with CBS because they wanted to know about WrestleMania 1. And I wrestled from 1983 to 93, 5,000 matches, which seems impossible, but
that's crazy.
It was. We were, just wrestling so much with no days off. Greg and I had the belts. We wrestled 100 days in a row without a day off, which meant we'd only get to go through like Florida. We both live in Florida. We'd come to Florida to wrestle a couple days, maybe Tampa, Miami, Orlando, wherever. So we actually get to go to your house and change out your clothes and everything, maybe even sleep in your bed for a night or two. But you didn't really get a day off. You didn't get to go hop in your boat or drive your motorcycle or just sit around in the yard and have a cold beer. We were just running and running and running and running and running. And I don't know how we did it. I honestly don't. And because it was everybody, all the guys who Vince made superstars out of the whole card, out of the whole crew. So that's how he could run 3 shows a night and still, be drawing 25,000 in one house and then maybe 15,000 in another house. And then at a third town drawing 7,000, which for small towns, 7,000 people is fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. A bunch of fans wanted me to show you. This is just a very quick video of something Jacques Rougeau said about you. So I'll just play it quickly so you could respond to it.
Some guys in the dressing room that there's some guys that were insecure about themselves or their position, however, but they would go ahead and say some things. Like I remember a guy, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, going to see Pat Patterson and saying, "Hey, tell him to stop talking that freaking French there." And when he said that, because maybe he was friends with Hulk, he thinks he had some privileges or something. I was looking at him like, "Hey, man, when Tito Santana and Pedro Morales, they'd speak Spanish with Jose the Conquistador or something, no one says nothing. And I still don't understand what they're saying, but I don't give a shit because I don't think they're talking about me. I don't feel like that. If they're more comfortable talking in their own language, it's normal. It's just normal." So a lot of the boys had heat when Pat came to me and Raymond. He says, "Hey guys, do you mind speaking English?" I looked at the Pat and I said, "But no shit, tabarnak." like I'm gonna.
Brother,
Did that actually happen?
no, hell no, that didn't happen. Jesus, I could care less if he spoke Greek. You know, it didn't matter to me what language you spoke. Because I mean, I wasn't that great a friend of him. You know, I'd say hi to him, and then we had to wrestle him a few times here and there, but it didn't matter to me what he spoke, you know. And Tito and I have been friends forever. And Tito spoke his Spanish, but didn't walk around the dressing room speaking Spanish, kayfabe. And we, you know, the old, you know, kayfabe. In the old days, it just somebody was sitting over there speaking French. You might say, "Hey, kayfabe," you know, because like you might be he's sitting there talking about us right in front of us, but we don't know what he's saying because he's speaking French. I mean. But I don't even remember anything like that ever happening. I never really cared what he said or what he did. Didn't matter to me. I didn't pay any attention to it. So I never would have told Pat Patterson, as I was no stooge, that oh, you're speaking French and we don't know what he's saying. That didn't happen. He maybe imagined it. Or Patterson was a big ribber, and I had heat with Patterson because, you know, they came out with Brutus Beefcake and boom, boom, boom. And he wanted a gay Brutus Beefcake from San Francisco and blah, blah, blah. Eventually he wound up putting that on Adrian and having him run around like a fool. But because I went the other way, they didn't put anything in stone that had to happen. They left it to me to get my clothes and me to figure out what to do and what kind of style I was going to do. So I chose the kind of Chippendale thing. I got my strut thing going down and be strutting around the ring all the time, and you know, and looking good with the look and everything. And
Someone's actually asking about the Chippendales vignette with Johnny V while you're on it.
Yeah, yeah, and I just, you know, I didn't feel honestly that I could really do the gay thing put my heart into it. You know what I mean? It just, you know, that just wasn't gay. And I know, so you know, I went full steam ahead as the Chippendale, and you know, geez, it worked like a champ. I don't know how it could have been any better.
Speaking of Adrian Adonis, why was there never a feud with you and Adrian after WrestleMania 3, or was there and it was just on house shows?
No, he quit. That's another story in itself. They had him teamed up with Dirty Dick Murdoch. You know who he is, right?
Yeah, I know him.
From Texas. And, you know, Murdoch, he the Funks and everybody, you know, had that Texas mentality and everything. And like, you know, he didn't like Hogan. He didn't like the bodybuilder type. And since I was teamed with Hogan for a while, breaking in and everything, trying to get established. He didn't like me either. And we wound up, we were in Japan together and stuff. And I had Adrian was at Hulk's wedding in California, brought his wife for one time in my life that I actually met his wife. They were together, and that's the only time that I ever saw her in my life. And Murdoch had a way, he would get in Adrian's head. And he had convinced Adrian that I was trying to take his wife away and things. And he came to me one day and said all this crazy shit. Like he knew I was after his wife and I better stay away. He was going to kill me. And all. I said, Adrian, if you marched your wife through that door right now, I wouldn't know it was her. Okay. So I don't know what in the world Dick Murdoch has put in your head, but you need to forget about it. Let it go. Boom, boom, boom. We were almost in a fight right there, but it just didn't happen, and walked and went our separate ways and stuff. And then the WrestleMania thing, I really didn't know that was coming till within a month before. And they gave me no warning at all that they were going to put this barber gimmick on me at the WrestleMania. So I had no time to prepare, knew nothing about it. And so Adrian was still in this complete mindset that he hated me, that I was trying to ruin his life and take his wife and all this shit. And so after the WrestleMania thing, he quit. He just left. And honestly, I knew Adrian for a long time. We worked in Minneapolis, probably 81, 82, and Jesse was there. And, there was a lot of guys. And there wasn't any friction with us then, or any problem then. Then we were traveling in Japan. There wasn't any problems then. It's just when he got teamed up with Murdoch that all of a sudden, maybe he had said something and Murdoch jumped on it. Because he didn't like me. He didn't like Hogan. He didn't like the bodybuilders. He didn't like Tony Atlas. He just didn't like it.
Didn't Tony Atlas says he was in the KKK or something? Did you ever hear that about Murdoch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's true?
I don't think it was true, but the way he talked, it was, we were on a tour in Japan, and it was a smaller tour, and we were hitting some northern towns in the mountains and stuff, and we were in Kumamoto, and because I'll never forget this, where it's one of the smaller towns, nothing to do, blah, blah. And the Akuza boys, the local guys, love wrestling. The sumo was their deal. They came to the matches, and our interpreter said, you no go with mafia guys. No go with the Akuza guys. You guys don't go. So yeah, we said yeah. And then afterwards, they came and grabbed us, and then Murdoch tagged along. So they took us to some bar or restaurant, and they fed us, and we went to a bar. And I mean, just like to buy a drink over there was like $25 for a drink, real alcohol. I mean, beer was beer, but so, I mean, they're buying us food, they're buying us everything. We're sitting in the bar, and they keep bothering me. They keep saying beefcake. I mean, no, it wasn't beefcake. There was they called me Ed Leslie. Edo. Arm wrestle. So they always wanted to arm wrestle me. So I've got 3 little Japanese boys. I get down on a glass table, big, thick glass top, 3 little Japanese boys hanging on my arm, and I'm just holding my arm and laughing at them and slapping them in the head. And next thing you know, 2 of them fall off. So I'm really, putting the pressure on to hold them. The 3rd guy goes through the glass table. Boom, explodes it. Put a cut all the way around my wrist, but didn't actually cut anything vital. I'm bleeding all over the place. So now at 1:00 in the morning, they got to take me to a hospital in Kumamoto, which it wasn't a big town, and try to get me sewn up. And it looked like Frankenstein stitches. It looked like somebody, like a veterinarian had stitched me up, not like a real doctor. And it wound up, now I'm getting in trouble now because I'm not supposed to be out with a Akuza, and now I'm injured and I can't finish the tour. So they got to send me home. So boom, they send me home. Murdoch stooges us out that we're the Akuza boys, and I get fired. But, one of those times when it did pay to be a friend of Hulk's, and because he got me booked over there the first time in 1980, and I went for years and years. And he made the call, and not only did he get my job back, he got me a raise. So Murdoch, unbeknownst to it, had done me a favor by getting me fired, because I got to come back pretty quick and got a raise, made more money.
Murdoch was partners with Adonis at one point, right? That's why they were buddies.
Yes, he was, man. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to ever. I never really wrestled Adrian Bush one-on-one at all. You know, I mean, he was a slob, brother. He could wrestle. I mean, the guy had no body. He looked like a top, little skinny feet, big body, little head, but he could do a lot of amazing things, fly over the ropes and stuff. But he was a slob. He was always drunk. His food all over him. He smelled like a sewer, and he was always fucked up. He's always, he's snorting, he's pilling out, he's drinking all the time. And so I didn't want to get anywhere near the guy.
He smelled like crap too, right? Like he didn't wipe himself properly. I heard people say
no hygienic qualities at all. And so, I mean, you stand next to him, you would be like, what the heck is that? And, you'd be like, oh my God, you'd be running for the hills.
Were you there for the Spivey thing?
For the what?
For when Dan Spivey beat him up?
No.
I
actually was not there that night. Tito was there, Junkyard Dog. We were good friends. We traveled, daily on the road together. And so I got the play-by-play. And Dan Spivey he's a boyfriend. He's a Tampa boy from here. I knew Dan. And when I heard about it, I was like, all right, Dan. Because he always, Adrian picked on people that he thought he could get away with, and abuse them in the ring and do mean shit to them, and, not taking care of a guy the way you're supposed to, and hurt guys, or not hurt them bad, but still tweaking your arm or tweaking your knee or doing some stupid shit. And when Adrian messed with Danny, and Danny says, don't do it again. And Adrian come back, did it again. Danny hit him one time in the ring. This is what I understand. Hit him one time, laid his cheekbone open. He was down, blood everywhere. They wound up having to finish up the match. They stopped it, whatever they did. Dan went back to the dressing room. Here comes Adrian, bleeding like a stuck pig, and tries to leg dive Danny. So Danny comes with an uppercut. Boom! Hits him again in the face. Comes to the left. Boom! I think he hit him 3 times from what I heard. Adrian's face looked like he got hit with a baseball bat. Looked like a train ran over his head when I saw him the 2 days later or whatever. I mean, it was unbelievable. And Danny just had those real brawler knuckles, bare knuckles, fists like he could punch concrete and not even care, not even feel it. And Adrian paid the price for all his bullshit on that day. And there was a lot of people thought that he deserved it. Some people, he didn't deserve that, blah, blah, blah. He did deserve it. He got what he deserved. I love Danny Spivey to this day. And I was high-fiving him. I said, good for you, brother. Somebody put that asshole in his place.
Vanderstar has a good question. Apparently, this is a hot topic right now. What's the true story between Hulk Hogan's black eye at WrestleMania 9? Apparently, he said it was a jet ski or something that hit him at the time. Is that true?
It is true. He had his big skis and some old Kawasaki's. I had a couple Polaris jet skis that they make in Minnesota or whatever. They just started making, there was a new one. They had it was a triple cylinder, variable thrust vectoring, not a big ski, a smaller ski with a really powerful engine. And I had 2 of them. And so we were down in Clearwater by his house, and we were riding, and it was rough weather, and he wanted to ride mine because I'd be flying around this thing, and it was super maneuverable and super fast. And I warned him. I said, don't stand up, because you know how a big a guy Hulk, 320 pounds, standing on this little jet ski makes you really top heavy, and you're going to be vulnerable. And he didn't listen, and he hit a wave, went flying in the air, and the ski virtually spun around in midair, and the front edge of the ski down right below where the handlebars were hit him in the head, hit him in the eye, and it fractured his eye orbit. It was fractured. He was virtually knocked out. So we had to get him up out of the water, get him on the beach. And then we wound up getting him to a car and getting him to the emergency room. And, and the doctor's like, oh my God. And WrestleMania's the next day or 2 days away. And his eyeballs like filled with blood, and his head's purple and everything. And it was in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas still had a boxing commission. You know how they had the commissions in the old days.
Yeah.
And did away with them. Best thing they ever did, get rid of those commissions. Now we've got to convince the boxing commission that this is just a phony, made up injury, like makeup, and nothing really bad happened, and he was okay. And because it looked bad. If you were right there and standing there looking at it, it looked bad. And we were able to find, because they weren't going to. That was WrestleMania. They weren't going to let us wrestle. Let him wrestle anyway. And so we convinced. We said we were in a bar the night before in a restaurant, and we came out. IRS and DiBiase jumped us, and and boom, and they hit him with the suit. Because everybody was the suitcase. They hit me with the suitcase. They hit him with the suitcase, and blah blah. And so they bought it. We got to do the match. I did most of the match for him. He was still on the apron the whole time. And boom, we worked it, came out okay, walked away.
Interesting, because I guess Bret Hart was trying to say Macho Man did it, but he would have no way of knowing that. You were actually with him.
No. Macho was a little temperamental and shit, but Macho Man wouldn't do something like that. He wouldn't.
Around WrestleMania 9, when you were doing the team with Hulk Hogan, were you going around on house shows and teaming with him too, or was it just for the WrestleMania?
We might have done a few house shows, but not all that many, because they were really trying to hold back and keep it, fresh for the WrestleMania, for the pay-per-view, not show the whole country the match before WrestleMania. So yeah, we didn't work a lot of house shows doing that. We might have had a couple of matches before, but then but with his skull fractured, we had to completely rethink the whole match, and protect him. And so, it changed everything. So it didn't matter what we had done before anyway.
What do you think about the whole Hulk Hogan feud with Bret Hart? As someone that was back there during the time, was Bret as outspoken back then as he is now about the situation?
Bret never talked that much. Really, when all this stuff, mostly, right after WrestleMania 9, that's me being Hulk. We left. We came to Florida to get ready to start filming a television show about the superboats. Ex-Navy SEAL, and with Chris Lemon's.
Thunder in Paradise, I think it was.
And we're going to start filming that. So we didn't wind up in the dressing room a lot, like when the Shawn Michaels thing went down and that, that whole thing. We weren't around. We were long gone and in Florida filming movies and filming TV shows and doing all kind of stuff like that. We were out and away from it. And then next thing you know, WCW is filming right down the street from where we're filming, and half the guys are all there every day because we got 30 Hawaiian Tropic models on our set. Beautiful, beautiful girls. And
tough job you had there.
Tough job I had. everybody wants to be there. Sting and Neidhart and Hercules, and I mean, every guy. O.J. Simpson I met at Disney World at the Swan. We were having sushi at the Swan, and there's O.J. hanging out because of the Hawaiian Tropic Girls. He liked the blondes.
What other celebrities have you hung out with? Being like Hogan's best friend for so many years. I mean, you were there for the ride, and you were a star yourself. But like you were at the top of the top in those days.
Well, I appreciate that, brother, for sure. Well, Tiny Lister, Zeus, who was involved in the SummerSlam '89, and then the cage match afterward, and then he actually came and did a bunch of matches in WCW and some pay-per-views with us. Mr. T had come for WrestleMania one, and then had come in and out for some stuff, and then I wrestled Pat Patterson in the Forum in Montreal for a sold-out show, and T was the special guest referee, and Patterson got counted out 1, 2, 3. I didn't use a sleeper on him, so he didn't wind up getting his haircut, or I gave him a little clip. He didn't wind up getting a full haircut or anything. But T and I hung out a lot, and I was well represented in Montreal. I had a big following there as far as the women go, and so me and T were hitting all the St. Catherine Street, hitting all the bars and stuff, and when we would be together on the road, we would always hook up and hang out together, while we're around. And that's one of the biggest ones I remember. I'm trying to think. Well, Chris Lemon, he was a hell of a guy. Jack Lemon's son from the Thunder.
I heard you say Brett Michaels from Poison too in another interview.
Brett Michaels, yep. I met. I was in Massachusetts at one of his concerts, and invited me, and I came down and went in the tour bus with him and talked to him. We talked about near-death experiences and how his life was changed, and I talked about mine and all that. And there was definitely some connection. Then he was a super nice guy. I knew more rock and rollers versus like real actor celebrities, but I knew a lot of the rock and rollers, a long list of guys. And so that was what I loved, to go to the concerts and go backstage and see Ted Nugent and see Z Top and Bad Company and Leonard Skinner and on and on, Aerosmith and guys like that, and those kind of bands. And Bruce Springsteen. I got to meet the Clarence Clement, the guy who played the sax, because my dad was a sax player his whole life, was an unbelievably good sax player. And so that was, I met Springsteen, but that was cool. But I really wanted to meet Clarence Clement, because he was just incredible with the E Street Band thing, with the sax player that was just off the chain good and stuff. And those kind of times, because we're all in the same loop. We all did the same cities, all did the same arenas. The big bands they're playing in the big arenas. We're wrestling in the big arenas. So we've always crossing paths with the guys and stuff. And it was just I was so honored to be, and these guys, they were all huge wrestling fans, and they loved the Barber. They loved all that stuff. And they always treated us so like put us on a pedestal. He really treated us amazingly good. And it was just a fun time to be a wrestler and be in the WWF.
I noticed that they have No Holds Barred playing on Tubi now, so it's getting another life again. What was it like working with Zeus? Basically a guy that was an actor, but he was over. Like, he was probably the hottest heel in the company at that time.
Well, Tiny was he was a heck of a guy, and no wrestling experience, a big guy. So we had an opportunity. We had a day to work with him in a ring. He came to Florida and spent a day with us in the ring, and we walked through stuff. And Tiny's been in front of the camera for years and years, but he's never really worked for an audience of 25,000 people live. It's a completely different ball game than just looking at a camera and you doing your lines. So we had to work out some stuff with him, keep it real simple. And and we used to make him laugh. We could calm him down if we would say, if he got lost or something, we'd say, "Free James Brown," and that that was his catchphrase, and that would kind of calm him down. He would relax and stuff. And we had a couple things that he always would fall back to in case he got lost. But honestly, he listened to us. We had that first match with Macho and everybody, and it was an amazing match. And he didn't make any mistakes. Everything was perfect, so perfect that they decided to do another one and do it in a cage. And that blue steel, the big bars and stuff, great for climbing up on, terrible for trying to hit, because it would leave big welts on you. You could break bones hitting that thing. So that was a tough cage match to come out of without getting hurt. And but you can actually climb up on it and kind of work up on the cage, and that's what we wound up doing. But the match, once again, he was calm. He listened. We did everything that we had told him and showed him. He would pick me up. He'd grab me, and I'd grab his hands, and he'd lift me up in the air with that chokehold, and I'd almost be giggling to him, going, "Free James Brown," and he would start laughing almost, and he'd have me up in the air. It looked like he's killing me and drop me and everything. And it was such a fun and honor to be in there and to have his trust. He trusted us enough to go on pay-per-view in front of the world and not make a fool out of him. Instead, make him look like King Kong. And I don't know what else to say. That was it. It's a tremendous match. If that match doesn't go in the Hall of Fame, I don't know what match would.
Yeah, that was huge at the time. Someone wants to know why you left WCW. Was that just your contract running out?
No, didn't really leave it. The WCW started flailing a little bit. Things were happening, and Bischoff and his butt boys are all making $700, $800, $1,000, $100 a year, making all this money. Nobody was wrestling. Nobody was working. They weren't working house shows, and so the company was floundering a little bit there. They brought in, I don't know if it was AT&T, one of the big phone things was merging with Turner, and they did an audit on the company. And when they saw all these guys making all this money, and they weren't bringing any money in, wrestling and house shows or anything like that, they cut everybody. They stopped it. They cut my contract off midstream. They still owed me, I don't know, 70, 80, 100 grand for the rest of my contract. And it wasn't even worth trying to go after, because, they got all the money, they got all the lawyers, and I'm going to hire somebody to try to get 100. If it was $1 million, okay, it would have been worth it. But 100 grand, it's going to cost me 50 grand just to try to win 100 grand. And then they're going to take 50 grand, and it wasn't worth it. So I just, and then that was brutal, because I didn't see it really coming. I wasn't expecting to get cut off. And I had just refinanced my house, had a huge mortgage, big house, beautiful house, planning on staying with forever. Wanted to have to sell it because couldn't make the payments anymore. There wasn't enough work. Working independents couldn't make the money as an independent to pay the bills. And
that's too bad. What happened with the XWF that was around for a while? People were saying that was basically just an excuse to party all the time for the guy that owned it. Apparently, that's what I heard.
Yeah, the guy was loaded. Loved hanging out with wrestlers, Knobs, and those guys were, and Kevin Sullivan and Greg and Murray, and Mr. Perfect, even a lot of the announcers and guys from WCW days, but they wouldn't put me in it. I was like, why? Everybody else is getting all this free money. What about me? Well, what did I do to you guys? and you know, it was kind of a weird thing. And I was like, all right, hey, whatever. And so I steered clear of the whole thing.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, didn't go.
Everybody, even David Penzer.
Yeah, these guys are pulling down money for this guy, and they're not wrestling. What kind of money are they going to make the company? You know, and I was in a position to actually contribute, and they didn't want me there. I don't know why.
You were in better shape too, because like I mean I wrestled you like around 2007 and you were still in good shape then. You didn't let yourself go or anything.
Right. Yeah, 2007 that was. Yeah, it was around 99 and 2000, man. I was 220 and shredded, 5%. And then it all went to hell right when I was in the best shape of my life. Then the company went under. And you know, I don't agree with Vince trying to take it over. If anything, he should have come in and propped it up and kept it as a separate entity, separate. Call it something else. Didn't have to be WCW anymore, but keep it separate from WWE. And the competing companies could have made bank. They could have got richer. They got rich as it was, but trying to take over everything. When Vince took over his competition, it all seemed to kind of go downhill, and things didn't seem to go as well, you know.
Yeah, there was what a 20-year dry period in wrestling before AEW came.
Well, our business, it goes through those ups and downs, you know. That's just the way the wrestling business is. You got real high points. We were lucky coming into the late 70s and early 80s. It started to pick up some momentum, and then in the 83 and 84 with VH1 and MTV and all in Hollywood, everybody wanted, and the NFL guys, they wanted everything, and everything. The baseball player, we had Bob Uecker in WrestleMania 3, and everybody wanted to be involved in wrestling, and so it was we had a tremendous run, even through the 90s and everything up until about after 2000, and then it started, you know, slowing down.
D. Kane is asking if you have any thoughts on the latest drama with Linda Hogan. They're putting out a video the other week in tears saying Brooke's not talking to her, etc.
So you didn't see Missy's video?
I did not.
Oh, but well, it was on. What do you call it? On Instagram.
YouTube?
No, she did it on. What's the other?
Facebook.
No, the other one. The one that they're trying to send back to Japan or to China. They're trying to buy it out.
TikTok.
TikTok. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes. Chinese spy tool.
She loves to do these TikTok stuff. So she did a TikTok video, and TikTok tore it down because it's hilarious. But I think you can.
I don't have TikTok, so maybe you'd have to.
TikTok took it down.
Okay.
Took it down, but it was on Instagram. You might find it on YouTube too. It's hilarious. She does a parody of Linda crying and all this stuff, and it's hilarious. Try to find it if you can. It's freaking hilarious.
I will, and it's
got $30 million out of the guy, and squandered it. Went through money so fast and stuff, and yeah. And I know Brooke's married and got a kid now. I think doesn't speak to either one of them because they're both train wrecks. And you know, and then here comes Nick, and he's a train wreck too. He gets a DUI after getting thrown in jail for killing the kid in his car, and then he gets a DUI. And so, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
Is it on your wife's Instagram?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay, I think I may have found it. Can I play it? Is your wife gonna care if I play it?
I don't care if you want to.
Okay, let's play it here.
Get ready.
Instagram. Let's have a look at this.
Two F-bombs flying.
Suffering. ring because Hulk Hogan was so mean to me, and Linda Hogan doesn't care about my feelings. She said terrible things about me. She said I stole child support money so that I could buy Louis Vuitton handbags. And I'm sorry I look ugly, but I gotta tell the truth, and I need to come free.
My puppy there.
And Hogan and Hulk Hogan squashed $1 million deal during the defamation lawsuit that Hulk Hogan had going. They squashed the deal for Brutus after he went to Good Morning America. And after he went on social media and posted, and I'm sorry, all my fans for having to make fun and looking ugly and having a pimple, but I gotta let you know the truth. Linda Hogan is a fucking fraud. The Hulkster, the fucking fraud. The only person that was ever nice to me was Brooke Hogan. Despite hearing things about me, she never passed judgment on me. She just accumulated all to, quote, family drama. So, please, Linda, stop being a fucking cunt. Would you please? And Terry, Hulk Hogan, you've had plenty of time to rectify the situation with Brutus, and you just won't. And I'm not sorry that I rejected you. It's not about that.
Well, we could watch the whole thing on your wife's Instagram page, but she's quite an actress. She's quite an actress. Wow.
She is funny, and she's been doing these parodies and stuff on Hulk on her thing and for a while, because I'm the commissioner of Boca Raton Championship Wrestling. We've got a great little group going out of Boca Raton, wrestle every couple months. Tremendous NXT guys. We got a giant. He's 7 foot tall. We got really good athletes. Tons of guys. Most of them everybody works for AEW and TNA and all the different companies, and then they'll come work for us like once every couple months when we do a show in Boca Raton, and so she's like, they call her the glamorous, Missy, or they got their own name for her and everything, and we have fun, it's go out there and have a good time.
So I take it you and Hulk aren't friends anymore then, or okay, so you're on speaking terms though, right? Or did something else happen since then?
I don't really speak. I ran into this guy Ronnie one day. I was in the building right by where his beach store is, where he sells memorabilia and all the stuff. And the guy come running out and stopped me, and I talked to him for a little while and everything, blah blah blah. And I said, you tell the big man, I said hello, and blah, blah, if he wants. Give me a call, or I'll call something. I tried to put the olive branch out, tried to send the message, let there be bygones be bygones. Life's too short for all this drama. And he wasn't having it, so whatever. What she said about him rejecting him. Yeah, he hit on her basically. And there's a bunch of stories flying around about wives and people that he's hit on, and it's not pretty.
Hogan?
Yeah.
Really? I did not know that.
Well, yeah, I was. Believe it or not, it's true, or somewhat true anyway. They definitely tried to hit on my wife right in his kitchen, and then she told them off, and then next day, that was it. We weren't welcome. But then he got the excommunication from WWE over the N word, like The Rock and shit, didn't want to have anything to do with them and blah, 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 blah. He was out in the cold. And then when they called me about coming in to do the Hall of Fame and asked, who I might want as a presenter, but they weren't going to have presenters. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't even, maybe like Greg or maybe Hulk. And so they said, okay. Vince said, okay. And we'll actually allow, but Honky wanted something. Harlem Heat, they wanted their own presenter. They were actually pissed. Stevie Ray was cussing and screaming on the bus going over to one of the things about how, Beefcake was getting special treatment. They wanted their presenter because I got my presenter. It started a whole drama thing, but it got his foot back in the door for Vince in a way that, boom, it was acceptable. And then he did the presenter thing and screwed it up bad. Started talking about the Zodiac in the speech. Listen to the speech sometime. He starts talking about the Zodiac. Well, that was.
I have no recollection of him mentioning the Zodiac. I'm going to have to listen.
Talking about WWE. Zodiac happened in WCW.
Because he invented the Zodiac, right? That was his gimmick, yeah.
For a movie thing. And then if you watch, you'll see that as soon as he comes off the stage, he goes, grabs his new wife, and then takes off, leaves. Doesn't even wait for the actual presentation of the, of the Hall of Fame deal.
Listen to your thank you, Terry, and all that shit. He was gone.
Yeah. Didn't stay for anything. Took off. Ran out of there. And I didn't even know it till Missy actually showed me one day. We were rolling it back from YouTube or whatever, and she shows me. She goes, "Watch." He runs out there, grabs him, takes off. Didn't even stay for it.
Why do you think they're not using him this year at WrestleMania? Because I've heard nothing about him doing anything this week at WrestleMania.
I don't know. Well, what goes around comes around. Did you see the thing where they announced him on Netflix and they booed him?
Yeah, I mean, that was all over the place.
I felt bad for Jimmy because Jimmy's Jimmy. He don't hurt a fly. And Jimmy's nice to everybody and bends over backwards to make everybody feel good and wanted and everything. Never says a disparaging word about anybody. And so, he had to be part of that, which was crappy. But, God, I got to tell you, I was still going out, 2 or 3 times a month, sometimes cities all over there, when people who used to, I used to have that Mega Maniacs picture on my table. I don't even bother anymore because nobody will buy it. So many people don't like them because the things that it's an accumulation of things in the last few years that have come out about him and things he's done and things he said. And then this latest thing on the Netflix thing, when all the people booed him out, it's gone the other way. And he's done it to himself.
Cutie pie. You fucking cutie pie, you.
Someone has a good question. Did he ever hit on Miss Elizabeth? Because you said that he hit on other people's wives. Would he have done that ever to Macho Man? Or
yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think so. I
think there were lines you don't.
No, in the Macho Man, that if he actually would have caught him hitting on her, I think that there could have been a real trouble in that. But I mean, she actually managed me for some matches that we had. We're a tag team, and then a couple of times something was going on, and I had to take his place in the main event in Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. That's a big arena. That's 25 to 30,000 people, and so
Royal Rumble's been there, I think, in the past.
Or a week before, they had to plug me in to his spot. And I was like, oh man, I hope this goes well. Cause and it turned out to be a tremendous match that me and Mach had. And the media, the fans, everybody, they said there wasn't a single person came looking for their money back because Hulk Hogan wasn't there. They didn't care. we gave them a great match. They were happy. That's what counts. And, you know, and that really was, it was a big boost kind of for me personally, because it let me know that, man, you know, I really have come through and stood on my own and done and been able to break on through as Brutus Beefcake, as the Barber, whatever, without anybody standing behind me, pushing me. I did it on my own, baby. And I stole the show.
What were your thoughts when you heard that Hogan had done that with Bubba's wife and Bubba had approved of it? Were you aware of that before it happened? Or were you kind of like, what the hell? Because you were friends with both of them, right?
Right. Yeah. Bubba used to come around to Hoke's house to work out.
I mean, his wife was hot. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I actually moved back down here, I was living in Boston, and Missy used to talk to him on the phone, but had never met him personally. She used to talk to him on the phone. Sometimes he'd call me almost every day. When are you coming home back, Brutus? When are you coming home, Brutus? When are you coming home? When are you coming home? And I was up there trying to secure my daughter's place, getting her into college, get her through high school, get her into college, making sure she's taken care of. And it paid off. She wound up graduating from her high school, top of the class, full boat scholarship to nursing school in Connecticut, Quinnipiac College. Graduated from Quinnipiac Nursing School, top of her class, is now a pediatric nurse and set for life and everything. And then that, once she was secured, me and Missy, we hightailed it for Florida. And when I got here, he says to me, I didn't know you were going to bring her. Why did you bring her? I was like, what? What are you talking about, man? We've been talking on the phone every day. And he's telling me about, how Bubba wants him to screw his wife, and they're going to film it, and they want to sell it on the line as a porn. And there was all, and I kept telling him, man, are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? Don't walk away from that. Run away from it. It's going to be trouble. It's not going to be what you think it's going to be. And he wouldn't listen to me, and because Bubba really had his ear. Bubba used to call him 20 times a day, had him on the radio every day. They were kissing his ass. And his head was so big, you couldn't fit through a doorway. It had to be a double wide door just to get his big head through there. And, and it all wound up going south, that Gawker thing and everything. And
did he actually get the money from Gawker? Did he actually have that whatever million it is?
Oh, they awarded him like 50 million, but as far as I know, he didn't get that. He might have got something, but he sure didn't get 50 million.
So his main money now is probably his WWE deal and whatever he gets from the beer company.
Yeah, he got his new beer, which sucks.
I don't think it's available in Canada yet.
I wouldn't doubt it. They'll probably ban it up there if they're smart.
Someone wants to know, and a bunch of people have asked this, do you have any Andre the Giant stories you could share with us?
Andre. Yeah, well, this is a good one. It's in my book. It's kind of a double story. Well, two quick stories. We always stay in the Keio Plaza in Tokyo. It was like an 80-story high building, big, beautiful, huge hotel, beautiful place. And we'd always come in, usually into the Keio, and then we'd hop a bus or we'd hop a train or the bullet train from there and travel the country, do our tours, and then wind up back at the Keio Plaza before we'd take whisked off to the airport and fly out. And Andre, the bathrooms and the hotel rooms were small. I mean, Andre would have a problem in a huge bathroom, and he couldn't. There's no way Andre could go sit in the toilet in a bathroom. So what he did was before the trip home in the plane, because he couldn't get in the bathroom in a plane either, he would shit in the bathtub. And I mean, sometimes I can't even describe it. There would be so much shit pile in the bathtub. that like the maids, the little maids would come in after to clean the room, so that he'd leave the door shut. They'd come in the room, they'd be going, oh my God, what's that smell? These little 5 foot tall, half bent over the maids and everything from carrying rice in the patties their whole lives. They come in, they open the door to the bathroom, and there's just giant pile of shit, look like 50 cow shits in the tub, and the little mama son faints, boom, goes down. The next one, she comes in to see what happened to the one. She sees the shit, she goes down. Next thing you know, they're calling a hazmat crew. They got a hazmat crew coming in white suits, and they're taking the maids out on stretchers and trying to revive them and everything. And I'll never forget it. It was like the hotel alarms are going off, and I mean it turned the whole hotel went into a code red for like an hour after that. And
Wow.
then, on another trip, we were flying home, and he didn't get a chance to, go before he left. So now we're on the 747. You know how big those planes are, right? You've been on one?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, they got the upstairs. Some of them even have a full bar, all kind of shit upstairs. And then towards the back of the plane, they had they had these big restrooms even, but he still really couldn't fit in those. And because he was so tall. And we wound up, he had to go. So the flight attendants wound up coming to the very back, because there's like 2 or 3, areas where they prepared meals and stuff. You had 300 or 400 people on these planes. That takes a lot of space. They strung up a huge garbage bag in the back of that area, the preparation area, and they pulled the curtains on both sides. And he went back. He got back there, and man, he's letting loose some farce. I mean, it's just the sounds. And there's people in the back, towards the back of the plane, and then the smell that starts coming out. And there was a few of the boys on the plane, not a lot, but we are all dying. We're just on the floor laughing. There's people in the back of the plane. It's terrible. We're laughing at, but the people, the smell was coming off that garbage bag full of shit, because he's just going and going and going. And there's people throwing up and crying and screaming.
So they're holding the garbage bag under his ass, basically?
Basically, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And the poor flight attendants, they were so horrified. A couple of them had to just go and sit down. They couldn't even, they had to take a couple hours off duty. They couldn't even handle it. They were just so grossed out, so horrified. And it didn't bother Andre a bit. He just, he just said like this, said, okay, went back up to first class, sat down, and started drinking again.
Would he always buy the drinks? Is that true? You got free drinks if you got to hang out with him?
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of times they weren't charged. Everybody gave Andre drinks. And if you were hanging out with them, they pretty much gave everybody drinks. It wasn't like he had to buy everybody rounds, or because he certainly would, but he didn't really like all that many guys anyway. So there weren't a whole lot of guys hanging around for drinks and shit. But I was lucky. He liked me, and I got along with him. And a lot of tours in Japan. We had some pretty good trips and stuff, and had some fun.
Dirty Davis wants to know if you have a haiku story you could share with us.
Ooh, let me think. Oh, yeah, geez.
You must have wrestled him at least a couple times when you were Brutus Beefcake the Barber.
Only like a couple tag matches and stuff, but we were good friends. We were good friends. The best haiku story I can think of was we wrestled in Baltimore, and we used to stay by BWI Airport, and there was a Hilton, and it had been there a long time. They had a a bar there was called the Safari Club, and it had been there a long time, so it had a regular following of people. And then up the hill was a Holiday Inn, a Marriott, and everything. We were actually staying in the Marriott, but we went down the hill to the Safari Club and to have drinks. And it was kind of you wouldn't think there'd be kind of like rednecks in Baltimore, but this area, this bar had, they had their share. And so Haku and I and some of the other guys were in the bar, and we're sitting around, we're drinking, and then some guy comes up and starts giving me shit, and then he starts giving Haku shit, and then words will start flying back, and stuff, and it's like, oh, and Haku grabs the guy by his hair, by the back of it, pulls him in, basically bites the tip of his nose off and spits it right back in his face, and blood's going everywhere. And then this guy's friends, the bar erupted. Chairs started flying, people were flying. And so I was like, oh my God, we got to get the hell out of here. So I wound up getting him out of a side door. Cop cars were flying in from every direction. People were flying out the doors from every direction. I got him out of the place before the cops really surrounded us, and got him up the hill to the Marriott, into the hotel. So now, everybody's telling the story, and so they want him, and they figured out that we went back to our hotel up to the store. So here it comes, 20 cops, and they, with their clubs, they start clubbing you. Oh, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to get ugly. And he's not going to give up. And so we had to kind of negotiate a surrender so they wouldn't attack him and he wouldn't attack them. And so peacefully he surrendered. He went down. The people, these guys started it. So none of them pressed charges. So really, they couldn't hold on to him. They had to let him go. So I came down and to the police, waited for him, and got him out. And this was probably about 5 and 6 in the morning. And every day we were flying to a new town. And if I hadn't went down and got him out of jail, he would have missed the town. He might have missed a couple of towns. Could have even got fired, because it would have went right back to the office. But I got him out, got him back to the hotel. We, got back on the road, and nothing. And because they didn't file charges, there was no charges filed against him. Then it just kind of magically went away. But that was one of the wildest things I've ever seen, when he bit this guy's nose, tip of his nose right off, and spit it in his face. And it was like, after that, Haku was like my best friend in the world, like savior. I mean, he was like always like, hey, is anybody bothering you, man? I said, no, everything's okay. If I said, hey, that guy's bugging me, Haku would go over and smash him, because it was like he appreciated the fact that he was on his own down there, and I was the only person who came to help him. And I helped him and got him out of there, got him to the airplane, got him back to, to the airport, and got him on a plane the next day. And he didn't lose his job. He didn't get in trouble. And it was like forever. I mean, to this day, he still treats me like, just like I'm a, like a god to him, that I helped him, and it was a pleasure. I didn't do it to get anything out of it. I loved the guy. I thought he was, the Samoans and were my friends. They helped break me into business. They always took care of me, treated me like family. And to him, he was like my family. So I'm not going to leave my family behind. I'm going to get him out of jail. I'm going to do whatever it takes to help him. And so it all turned out good.
Now, I've never heard of this story, but somebody says Tama, aka the Tonga Kid, did an interview where he claimed Haku beat you down. Have you ever heard this? I never heard this.
I've heard a couple times. A couple of people say something. Him and I were talking in the shower one time or something. And I made a joke because, he did those. He wasn't real big on the chops, but he would do. His hand was like
I've taken them. I've wrestled them.
Right.
They're like bear paws.
You know, and I was joking. I said, please don't hit me with that chop. So somebody took it as that I was complaining because he hit me with a chop, and I was crying about it. He hit me with a chop, but it was completely the opposite. Because I had heard that down the road. A few years later, I'd heard it. Yeah, we heard you were in the shower and you were crying to him about because he hit you too hard. I said, no, that wasn't the case at all. I was making a joke out of it. I was ribbing him, kind of saying, you know, brother, you know, blah, 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 we'll do it, but just don't hit me with that chop. You know? And so, you know, to this day, I don't pay attention. There's a lot of jealousy, brother. There's a lot of jealousy. People were jealous because of me. They said, oh, you got Hulk's buddy, and you get everything, and you go everywhere, and you're such a
Bischoff has a new video out too. I didn't watch it, but didn't he put something out about you on an airplane or something recently? Or
he said
about the
guys, yeah, he said I pissed on the plane.
You publicly pissed somewhere, right? Is that true?
The Nasty Boys had done something crazy, and they got in trouble and stuff on the plane. But you know, yeah, it definitely wasn't true. But you know, he loved just making up shit.
Yeah, Bischoff, for some reason, you and the Honky Tonk Man, he always goes after you guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I have nothing. I'm no shortage of things to say about him. He's a great fraud. Him and Jason Hervey, you know, they were partners doing television, selling reality shows to people, taking their money and filming stuff, and then when it came time to get their things onto TV and make deals and everything, they'd come back to the people and say, oh, well, you know, the they didn't like it, so they turned down they're not going to give us a spot. And they took tens of thousands of dollars from people and then just stole their money, and then just, you know, and then went on to the next person and conned them. He's a con man. He didn't know that. He never put on a pair of wrestling boots. And in my opinion, he didn't know dick about wrestling. Who was he to run a wrestling business, you know, and claim to be all knowing, all seeing, smart guy? Don't know shit about our business or running it. You know, I never saw it, never figured out how he ever did it. He was a genius con man, though. I got to give him that.
Were you there when Coco Beware beat up Paul Roma, or did you hear about that story?
Yeah, I heard about that one, but yeah, I didn't.
You didn't see.
I love Coco. I know Coco since 77 when I was first in Memphis, and when I first met Wayne Ferris, Honky Tonk Man, and Jimmy Hart, and Coco was there too. You know, when we were all, you know, and Coco's been my friend ever since. I love Coco. He's a great guy. But what I was there for was when Paul Orndorff beat up Vader.
Oh, in WCW.
Yeah, Vader, I hated him. He just abused guys in the ring, hurt people all the time, didn't care. He thought it was funny. And Orndorff he's a Florida boy. He's Brandon. He was our rival high school. They called him the Brandon Bull. And in high school, he was benching like 300. He was just jacked. And they said he has his shower shoes on. He went in the shower and he put the boots to Vader and he just pummeled him. They had to pull him off finally because he just pummeled the living shit out of Vader, and everybody applauded him because Vader just deserved it. He was a bully, and all he ever did was bully people and picked on weaker guys and stuff, you know, and deserved it. I wasn't lucky to be in a couple of good places.
I know you didn't like Warrior too much. Is there any Ultimate Warrior story you could tell us?
Not really. I was just glad I never had to wrestle him. You know, I mean, when he first came in, what I knew of him, he was supposed to be this chiropractor. He was a chiropractor. I mean, good body, good training. I used to actually work out with him in the gym. Sometimes we'd eat together and travel a little bit when he first came in. But then once he changed up and got the new gimmick, and then Vince just, I don't know, Vince just had this hard on for him. He loved him. Just thought he was the cat's meow. Suddenly that he's going to replace Hulk Hogan, and going to be the new Hulk Hogan, and on into the future and stuff. But he couldn't wrestle, and he really couldn't wrestle. I mean, it's one thing to go out there and shake the ropes and run back and forth and anything, but he really couldn't wrestle. So it's like, I never saw the appeal. I didn't figure out how was he ever gonna. He couldn't talk. His interviews were just so goofy and off the wall. Didn't really ever say anything that made any sense. Just talk gibberish. And
were you in his dressing room in WCW? Because you were the disciple of the Warrior at one point too, right?
Well, for like a week, yeah, they said I was going to be his. That was Bischoff. Another way of Bischoff screwing me over, and he hadn't made a deal with him. They make me this One Warrior Nation guy as his one as his disciple now, and then the next week he quit. So now I'm floundering. There's nothing, nowhere to go with me as the One Warrior Nation guy. I look like a fool, and that was the beginning of the end for me there at WCW, because then what was I going to do? And it lasted for I don't know, another month before those guys came in and audited the company and shut it down, and it all went south.
Did you know Billy Jack Haynes much, and what are your thoughts on his whole situation with killing his wife?
Oh yeah, I didn't know. That's one thing I don't know much about. Billy Jack Haynes. I was in Oregon for a year, pretty much the whole year, 1979. And C.V. Athy, I don't know who he is. He's wound up going back to.
Yeah, he looks like Jimmy Snuka. They used him as an enhancement guy for a while.
He ended up getting to chief body tattoos and stuff. But he and I used to go to the same gym, and we were looking for a better gym. And we wound up going to this gym one day, and there's Billy Jack working out. I mean, he was big, 6'2", 6'3", tall, big guy, great body, jacked. We started talking to him, everything. Next, he started coming to hang out a little bit. I brought him into the fold. I think David Schultz was there at the territory. Stan Stasiak was. Dutch Savage was our booker. Matt Bourne was there. They saw, that he thought he had potential, so they shipped him off to Stu Hart in Calgary for Stu to train him. And so basically I discovered the guy. I don't know if that's something to be happy about or not, but he was good for many years. And then I don't know what happened to him. I mean, the same thing's happened to a lot of guys. People don't realize the concussions you go through and you encounter, and how adversely people can be affected. Some people more than others. I mean, Chris Benoit, his head was mush. They did a check. They checked his brain. His brain was 98% mush from all the headbutts, missing every night, hitting the ring every night, every day. Concussion, no time to recover, going back to the ring again, boom, boom, boom. And you do act out and do things. Look at Junior Seau, the football player for the Patriots, shot himself. This guy, there's no reason this guy would ever do anything like that. Had a family, everything like that. But the concussions had totally destroyed his ability to reason and have rational things like that. It's probably what happened to Billy Jack in the end. He just, he lost his mind too.
And last guy I'll ask you about, because I know he lived in Tampa too, so you probably knew him, was Hercules. Why did he pass away so young?
Herc was another victim of the opioid crisis. He was a Tampa boy. I mean, he had 9 kids. He was married, got divorced. He wound up remarrying his wife that he had the 9 kids with, and was doing good. But the opioid thing was happening, and between drinking and I mean, and the schedule we're on, the amount of he died from basically overdose with alcohol.
Baby, me and the girls are looking for
That's too bad. Are you going to be in Vegas at all this coming week for WrestleMania? You have anything coming
No,
up?
I was actually
There's
booked.
too many people go.
Yeah, it's crazy. Fred Ottman gave me a call. Says, I got a guy wants to bring in some guys. I gave him your number. I talked to this guy. I mean, they made us a great offer. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be one of my best WrestleManias ever. I'm going to make a ton of money. It's going to be fun. A few weeks later, and this is like in December, the guy calls back
Bye-bye.
and says,
I don't have any
I'm gonna be sick and I won't be able to make it. So I got to cancel. And I'm like, I called Fred and I said, what's going on, brother? How could this guy know he's going to be sick 3 months from now and we can't be there, so he's going to cancel us.
money. They canceled Fred too.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it was all bullshit. The guy was all full of shit to begin with. Probably it was. I don't know. Somebody ribbing us, maybe. I don't know who this guy was.
Go outside with your family when you're done, okay?
Yes, honey.
All right, love you.
So many shady people in wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you checking in with us. Is there anything you want to give a plug or anything before we sign out here?
Well, I just my Boca Raton Championship Wrestling, and I'm the commissioner. You can log on to on the internet and look it up. Great talent, great people. I just want to thank all my fans. My huge people are always coming out and driving long trips to still come to see me, and I can't. I'm honored and grateful and thankful to the fans for all these years to still be in my corner, to still support me, and I hope they continue to, and I hope I can hang out for a few more years and get to, hang out with them.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. And could you just do more of a promo to shut this down, as if it's like one of those 80s superstars wrestling promos to sign us off here?
Let me tell you something, brother. If you don't tune in to Hannibal TV, watch the best podcast going this side of the Mississippi, then I'm going to have to come out, put you in the sleeper, chop all your hair off, body slam you, stomp a mud hole in you, and then say goodbye, folks.